all familiar with the concept of pain. We feel and experience it. There are some pains that are physical and others mental. There's some pains we can get over easily, and others might have a little difficulty getting over them. So you may ask, why pain as a blanket? And I'll throw the question back to you. Why not? Across the globe, we've seen various cases of people using things or objects as a coping mechanism. For instance, a child refusing to let go of an actual blanket because he or she feels comfortable with it. Or someone who's been on pain medication for so long, they don't know who they are without it. So the idea of pain as a blanket is when pain has become familiar. It feels safe, comforting, and something you can trust to not disappoint you. When you've held on to those pains for so long, they become your familiar in your body system. I'm sure by now we can all tell that my topic today is pain as a blanket. We've all experienced some form or level of pain. As kids, when we play roughly and sustain an injury, as teenagers, and even as adults. But my earliest memory of pain in this context could be traced back to age 9 when I was sexually abused. I was taken advantage of by not just the opposite sex, but by a woman also, all in one day. Can you imagine how traumatizing such an incident was? I grew up in a strict African household, and like anyone here who grew up in a similar household, can relate to the difficulty in speaking to your parents about such an incident. Not because they wouldn't have helped, but because I was just too afraid to speak up. Growing up, I didn't really have friends. I was dismissed by everyone, and so I became a loner. Until one day I happened to buy lunch for a classmate. And since then, she attached herself to me. So I felt, hey, I could buy my friends. So I started to set myself on fire to make and keep friendships that weren't even real to begin with. At such a young age, I was going through a lot mentally and couldn't tell anyone about it. So I took the pain and the shame all on my own. Hence, my journey and relationship with pain began. Pain had become my familiar that I couldn't see a happy future in it. I had become best friends with my pain that I couldn't go to bed without crying myself to sleep. I had formed such an intimate relationship with my pain and my very active imagination that I would create painful scenarios in my head just so I could cry. Because that was all I knew. And this was a habit I continued for so long that took a lot to break. So why am I telling you all this? I'm telling you this because, like me, there are other people out there doing the same to themselves, or rather, worse, and not able to break free from such habits. So, how do we change the narrative of pain in our minds? First, we need to change our perspective, or rather, change how we allow the things that happen to us affect the way we live our lives. When we hold on to such faulty thought patterns, we limit ourselves from having meaningful relationship, true happiness, and most importantly, peace of mind. So how do we connect the dots between our pain and everyday living? First, by channeling our pain into something positive with these 3 steps. Explore your emotion. To explore your emotions, you need to be able to feel and walk through them to identify a root cause. Lessons. Once you've identified the root cause, then you need to figure out what you can learn from it. Regardless of the pain you feel, there will always be something to learn once you take the time to self-reflect. Third is change. You've identified the root cause, figured out the problem, the lessons. Now you have to be willing to do things differently. Let your experiences be the thing that leads to your growth. 2021 was a major life transformation for me. I had a mental breakdown, and I was forced to take those 3 steps. I didn't have the opportunity to work through my issues as a little girl. So I've been piling up all the pains from childhood to pains from adulthood, and one day I crashed. Now I realize I still have a lot of work to do, but I am thankful for my growth and for what I've been able to overcome. Taking those 3 steps will prove difficult and challenging, but so much worth it. Another way we can connect the dots between our pain and everyday living is by choosing to make the best of situations. How we choose to respond to things that happen to us matters. We can choose to respond in a positive or negative way. But regardless of the path we choose, I hope that we'll always find a way to a positive outcome. Next is getting out of your head. This is going to take a lot of practice and work. I live rent-free in my head, or rather my head lives rent-free in me, whichever one makes sense. But I realize that I am the queen of staying in one's head. And from experience, I can tell you how it messes up with your mental stability. Because when I stay in my head, I become a completely different person, someone I do not like or want to be around. It goes from being sad to being mean to being angry, disrespectful, and it just messes it up for everybody. So learn to talk yourself out of situations for your mental health. Last but not the least, be your own motivator. I realized no one would cheer me for me as much as I would for myself. Why? Because if life has taught me anything, is that those who you choose to trust, to depend on, to encourage or motivate you, might or would disappoint you. What happens when they are no longer in your corner? What do? You have to learn to be your own cheerleader. I've always loved to dress a certain way or a certain style, but that was all in my head. Funny story, don't laugh. Now I know there are still a lot of people with such mindset as mine in this generation. But I was of the opinion that I needed to have a man first to be able to dress the way that I felt. Yeah, I know, no kidding. But as I grew to love and accept me, I had to start making changes for me and not anyone else. And that meant doing things that made me happy. So I started to dress the way I envisioned for myself with the little money I had. I spent most of 2021 just posting pictures on social media. It wasn't for likes or popularity or for acceptance or any of that stuff. But because when I look at that girl, I become so proud of who she was becoming and the places that she would go. I felt happy, confident, and my love for me grew. So yes, that was one way for me to motivate myself. So find whatever it is that motivates you. It could be talking and reassuring yourself in the mirror, or placing affirmations around your home. But whatever works for you, do. As we go through life, you'll find that pain is inevitable. But what we do with that pain matters. How we pick ourselves up after every fall, and how we never ever let ourselves be defined by our painful experiences. My name is Ukeme Etuk, and thank you.